This show is brought to you by Beco Dairy Automation. You have tuned in to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. We call it the Dairyman's source for new ideas, information, and technology, mixed with a double dose of current market conditions. The what, the why, and the how things influence the amount of money dairy producers receive for their daily milk deliveries. We offer this daily News Hour magazine as a catalyst to make long-term dairy producers sustainable. We invite every dairy producer in America to get their daily dose of what can be done and what they can do to achieve and maintain profitability on their farms. $22 for 36 months is our goal. We advocate there is a way forward. We invite dairy producers to come listen, to learn, and to participate. This is a no complaint zone. We talk solutions. So get out your pen and paper. Here is your host of the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, Tom Van Nortwick, owner of Agribusiness Publications, publisher and editor of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine.
Thank you for joining us. We are grateful for the opportunity we have to, in a small way, be part of the dairy industry, and look forward to the news and information that is available to us today and that we can impart to dairy producers all over the country. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, we would encourage you all the time to visit our website at my-dairyman.com. There you will find our archived issues of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine. You will find our current publications and information about our 2020 agenda, which is being perpetuated in this format as a means to reach more dairy producers in less time with more information. The importance of what we do, we think long-term, will have a big impact on the pay price of milk paid to dairy producers. One of the biggest concerns we have today is the value of milk as far as what the market is willing to pay dairy producers. The unfortunate part of that is that that value is way below, even today, below cost of production. And as we look at the news and information of the day, it continues to validate that if we are going to see the price of milk rise in the short term, we're going to need to do something more than wait for demand to return. As Stuart, and I needed to thank Stuart for the introduction, a little too much fanfare for me, but he says, no, we need to get this out there and push the fact that we have an answer, what we call a way forward for dairy producers, if they are willing to collaborate together. Even cooperation would be nice, but we'll take collaboration, and we'll talk about the differences between those as we move along with the call. The format that we use on a regular basis is we'll start every morning. It's 8:30 in the morning in the Western Pacific time zone, 11:30 in the East, and of course the two time zones in the middle. Everybody knows the math on that. But we're glad to have you on board. We'll start every morning with some news of the day. Key driver for the pan-based dairy giants return to profitable growth in progress in the U.S. dairy market. And so is one of the articles. I haven't read these yet, and I apologize for that. But the most of the market this week has been down, and we don't bring that as bad news because the realities are that the demand for global milk out of China and Russia has dramatically dropped over the last 12 to 24 months. We cover that extensively in our February-March issue of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, which you can see for yourself in written form at my-dairyman.com, my-dairyman.com. And then we've also would introduce a new format for us, which is that there is an ebook available that you can download, and audio files of the key articles in the publication. You'll notice in the February book we did an extensive amount of research to bring forward articles and information about the markets. And Stuart hits that very nicely for us in our introduction every day, that we are going to continue to give you a double dose of the markets. The news and the information is important. The technology, the innovation in the dairy industry is extensive. We have a long list of great vendors who are doing their level best to meet or exceed your expectations and needs in the dairy industry. But we know that all of their stuff, all of those things that are available to us, cost money. Doug Maddox always said it best, and we talk about him a lot because it was his influence that got us started in this effort a long time ago. We've been printing magazines for more than 35 years, but we have to do more to get the message out there that in the long run, it's about the price of your milk, about the amount of money you can bring in that is so critical to your long-term success. He said it best. He said, if you give me enough money on my dairy, there isn't a single problem I cannot solve. But if you take away my money, there isn't a single problem I can solve on my dairy. And that's really what a lot of producers in the domestic market here in the United States, from coast to coast, and literally now around the world. And in fact, the dairy producers on a global scale are in far worse shape than are the dairy producers in the United States. And unfortunately, they've been in a downturn for a lot longer than U.S. producers have. Again, we appreciate our listeners on the call this morning. If you would press *6 on your phone, it will mute any background noise, and you can carry on with your day and the activities that are taking place in your home or in the shop or around the dairy, and not provide any background noise to the recording or to the conference call in general. So *6 your phone, *6, and just try it. You'll find out that your phone will mute and cut out all the background noise from the activities that are taking place there at your location. The next thing on our list of agendas this morning is to tell you that we will be meeting up with Ron O'Brien. Ron is a senior global strategist for Interfoods, and his job has been for quite some time. We didn't give it to him. A dairy producer, after we got started with the National Dairy Producers Organization many years ago, suggested that he contact us and see if there's something he could do to help us be better connected to the markets. He has for many years taken us on a romp every day as we've listened in to the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, listening to the buying and selling of butter, powder, and block and barrel cheese. Now, it goes in reverse order of that. Block and barrel cheese will come up first at about 45 before the hour, or after the hour, I should say, and then powder will be at 10 minutes before the hour, and then we'll conclude the CME tour with Ron O'Brien at about between 5 and 12 after the hour, when they close the butter trades. But the reason we do this is to provide an opportunity, an ample opportunity for dairy producers to hear about what's going on in the markets and why things are happening the way they are. We'll take here just a moment to bring, we have some great vendors who are working harder and harder to help support the things we do. We have a message from one of them, and hang on, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success Yes, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.beconknows.com.
All right, thank you. Welcome back. This is the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection, and we express our appreciation to sponsors and to vendors to the dairy industry who are working with us to support this effort of communicating more information and more timely information to dairy producers, especially as it relates to what the markets are doing at any given time. I'll be needing to bring Mr. O'Brien up.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Ron O'Brien, Global Derivatives Director for Interfood CME Cash Markets for Friday, February 26, 10:42 Central Standard Time. We're about to go live to the Board of Trade. Block and barrel cheese, spot markets, 145 blocks, 142 barrels. Cheese futures steady to a penny higher. Class 3 steady to 9 cents higher through July. We got non-fat futures steady to 2.6 cents higher, and a mixed market for butter between 3/4 of a cent higher in April and a penny and a half lower in June. Class 4 futures steady to 21 lower, which is interesting considering non-fat and butter in April are up sharply, where April futures are down 21 cents. But in a quiet way market, macro, Euro's down pretty big this morning, 107 points. 109.38. May crude up 27 to 35.10. March corn down a penny and 3/4 to 3.54 a bushel. March soybeans down about 4 cents to 8.55 half a bushel. Feb fat cattle up $1 to 138.85, and March feeders up 42 cents to 159.52. Stand by. Going live to the Board of Trade. Blocks at 145, barrels at 142. March cheese trading 150.30. April 148.30. May is bid at 149. And June last trade 152 half. Stand by.
You're listening to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. We have joined Ron O'Brien at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange as he allows us to listen to the blocks and barrel cheese trading there today. We'll be back with trades, with more news of the markets and the dairy.
Hey, it's Rylan. How are you? Happy Friday to you, sir. Well, we're just opened up here. Got no markets to start, no bids, no offers. Settlement for the block was 145 even. Barrel settled 142, and yeah. 10 seconds in, nothing posted, no bids, no offers. All right, minute in here. Still nothing posted, no bids, no offers. Nothing posted here, no bids, no offers. bid in the block by Evie one time, 145 even bid Evie. KBC sells that, 145 trade in the block. KBC was the song, Evie. 45 even bid in the block again here by Evie. Steady bid again here in the block. KBC sells that. Volume is 2 all day in the block. No market in the barrel. 45 even bid in the block again by Evie. KBC sells that. Volume is 3 all day. 45 even bid again here in the block by Evie. 140 even bid in the barrel by SIP one time. Steady bid in the block by Evie. 140 even bid in the barrel. 146 even offer in the block by KPC. So blocks 45 bid offered at 146. Comes to the call. First call. Second call. 45 and a quarter bid in the block by Evie. Quarter on the deck. Block. Posting. First call. Second call. 45 and a half bid in the block by Evie. Heavy buys the 46s from KPC, 146 even trade in the block. 46 even offer again here in the block by KPC. Heavy buys it at 146 even, KPC. Volume is 5 all day here. 46 even bid on a block. 46 even bid in the block by Evie. 140 and a quarter bid in the barrel by SIP one time. 147 even offer in the block by KPC. 142 and a quarter bid in the barrel by SIP one time. Up a quarter in the day barrel. First call. Second call. 46 and a quarter bid in the block by Evie. 42 and a half bid in the barrel by SIP. First call. Second call. 6 and a half bid in the block by Evie. 42.75 bid in the barrel by SIP. Got a 46 and a half bid in the block. 42.75 bid in the barrel. Blocks are still offered at 147 by KBC posting. First call. Second call. 46.75 bid in the block by Evie. 43 bid in the barrel by SIP. JMR sells at 143 in the barrel to SIP. 143 even trade in the barrel. Blocks 146.75 bid offered at 147. No market in the barrel right now. Heavy buys the block at 147 even from KPC. 148 even offer in the block by KPC. 47 even bid by Evie. Blocks 47 bid offered at 48. Still no barrel market right now. Posting. First call. Second call. 7 and a quarter bid in the block by Evie. Posting. First call. Second call. 7 and a half bid in the block by Evie. Still 48 even offer. First call. Second call. 775 bid in the block by Evie. Heavy buys to 148 even from KPC. No mark in the block right now. 149 even offer in the block by KPC. No bid. No market in the barrel. Posting. First call. Second call. Third. Close. Alright, so we're going to settle right there. The block at 148 even, up 3. 7 loads traded total. Barrel settling at 143 even, up 1 penny. 1 load traded in the barrel.
Move over, Manny, Mo, and Jack. For quick, convenient auto service and no appointment needed, ask for G Express service from Grupetti Automotive in Visalia. We'll guarantee an oil and filter change in as little as 39 minutes. And there's more. Need your tires rotated? A brake job? Even a 15,000-mile service? There's no appointment necessary, and we'll guarantee your service time. G Express. It's a new level of convenience you'll only find at Grupetti Automotive.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8 inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoknows.com.
All right, welcome back. We've just listened to the blocks and barrel trading at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Our thanks to Ron. We'll be back with dry powder trade shortly and then conclude with butter at about 5 after the hour. Our cover story this morning is going to focus a lot on the factors, totally unexpected factors that affect the price of milk out of producer's control, and it's really well represented by an article that's titled, and it's really just from the USDA, but it's one of our postings this week, that relatively mild winter weather is keeping milk flowing to Midwest cheese plants. And of course, cheese production is steady, but inventories continue to rise. And the article goes like this, we'll touch on this briefly, but relatively mild winter weather is keeping the milk flowing to Midwest cheese plants. Cheese production is steady, inventories are building, even with good demand from food service and retail customers. Now that's domestic demand, remember. Following experience of the past year with production increases, which had not generally been anticipated early in the year, followed by higher sales, the current market undertone is awareness of creeping inventories, but hopefulness that demand will continue to show strength. And this we see a lot, this optimistic viewpoint that, we see the inventories rising. That is causing the current low price for cheese. Blocks and barrel cheese in the 140s means that Class 3, Class 4 milk is in the 14s or lower, and in fact it's in the 13s. It isn't even holding as high. In the past, if we saw $1.45 blocks and barrel cheese, we would see about $14.50 per hundredweight in the Class 3, Class 4 milk payments to dairy producers. The market is so full of milk and so full of cheese, inventories rising, that the Class 3 price is actually $1 or more under that. There are probably there's probably pressure in California to see the Class 3, Class 4 milk price fall under $13, but $13.80 is the nationwide latest report that I've seen, is about $13.80. This morning, seeing the cheese price rise is a good thing, but unfortunately we're just pretty much going up and down at the bottom of the barrel, as it were.
76 even bid on 2. 76 bid on 2 by me. Just me. Posting. First call. All right. Second call. Third. Close. All right. So we're going to settle right there at 76 even. Up $1.25. No loads trading.
All right. There. The powder trades at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. No loads trading this morning. Pretty quiet for a Friday, but sometimes that happens. We have seen a little movement up in the powder, but unfortunately well below, in the 70 range, about half price. It should be in the 150s to 190s is where we would like to see it to have the type of impact that we need on Class 3, Class 4 production price for dairy producers. And so you can see that the markets are substantially lower and across the boards, and that in turn has its impact on the pay price of milk for dairy producers. Our cover story again covering the unexpected influencers the things we've expressed in our publisher's perspective in our latest publication, latest edition, I should say, of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, which you can find on my-dairyman.com, both in print and an ebook. The publisher's perspective outlines 7 major concerns that we have and that dairy producers have expressed to us about the current market conditions and the global influencers that are taking place. And what combines and makes things more difficult, we could add some other factors, but here's just a small list. Last spring, of course, the European Union takes quotas out of play, and dairy producers are allowed to pretty much produce all the milk they want. The impact of that, of course, has been an upswing. They have 29 million cows making milk, and while their milk production per cow is not what the producers can achieve or do achieve here in the States, there's still a formidable number of cows making a whole lot of milk. And some of the countries are up 17 to 24% in their overall milk production this year over last year. So there's more milk. Then you add to that the factor that Russia banning trade because of the sanctions that have been placed on Russia for what they have been doing for the last couple of years down in the, I want to say the Balkan states, but why does that name escape me? But anyway, the economic sanctions that are put on Russia turns around and says, okay, then we're not going to buy anything from countries that are aligning with the sanctions. And so the European Union, which typically would send a whole lot of milk products to Russia, doesn't have that market open to them, and they're looking for places to put their milk and milk products. That in turn, they have come to Asia and other parts of the world and are knocking on those doors with lower priced product than even ours. Butter outside of the United States has been for the last year, nearly a year, been selling for half price, about half of what it was selling for here in the United States. That gap, that margin has closed a little bit, but you can imagine if one of your major competitors was able to sell their products for a third to one half less than yours, and you're competing for the same clients, the same markets. Add to that the fact that their currency has really dropped in value. The American dollar has risen in value against other currencies, the Chinese yuan, the euro, the Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar. And so your major competitors have a value of their currency lower than the domestic market. Now, the impact of that, of course, here in California is that 40% of all global trade comes out of California in the form of powder and cheese, butter as well. And so that impacts California in a huge way as well, in addition to the fact that the global price is impacting the domestic price. Add to that the fact that dairy producers continue to produce more milk in 2014 than they did in 13. They made more milk in 15 than they did in 14. 14 prices are double, 15 prices are half, but we still made more milk than we did in 14. And so far this year, 2016, they're on par to make more milk than they did in 2015. So supplies rise, demand falls, prices fall with it, and unfortunately it's at an accelerated rate. It's almost the combined speed of the milk production rising and the demand falling, and prices tank, and could unfortunately continue to see additional pressure to go lower as more milk continues to be made in the European Union. Australia and New Zealand have tempered theirs. Oceania as a block have tempered there, but there's still plenty of competition. One of the things we express that add to this concern is that the trade balance of those 7 major countries that sell milk in competition with U.S. dairy sales are willing and able to fortify or prop up their dairy markets and even perpetuate them with tax dollars. They want more trading. They want more sales. They're willing to do it for less money and then make up the difference with tax dollars. And so dairy producers in the United States are competing not only with good producers and more cows and a change in the markets because of the Russia-China issue, but they are also competing against governments who are in the business of promoting dairy in their country, both in the production of milk and the processing of those products. And so they're willing to put up tax dollars to equivalent to an artificial stimulation of the dairy markets in those particular countries. But you got to compete against it. You can't do anything about it. It's reality, and there's nothing you can do. Then let's add. See what else we did. There was one more item that we were going to talk about, and I've lost that train of thought. But the point being is that there's a lot of sometimes it's called the perfect storm. 14 was a perfect storm up, 15 perfect storm down. But the point of this is that at any given time, dairy producers could have mitigating circumstances that they cannot control. They have no influence over, and demand is like that. We need to do all we can, and we have a proposal.
Posting. First call. Over 1 in 97.75. 97.75 offer by me. 96 bid by Heavy. Got a penny. Posting. First call. Okay. Off. Close. All right, we're close. We're close. All right, so we're close. All right, so it's settled at 197.75, down a penny, no lows trading. We went out as the offer.
Thank you, Ron O'Brien. Excuse me for my throat this morning. We've been listening to the blocks, barrels, the powder and butter trades from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and we express our appreciation to Ron O'Brien. We look forward in the near future of having him on, even maybe as early as today. He's always got so much going, and his duties have dramatically changed over the last several years as he's gone to work for Interfoods and their senior global strategist, traveling literally all over the country and around the world on working with producers, companies, and organizations who buy and sell in the dairy trade, in the dairy markets. So it's unfortunate to see butter fall under $2 today. That's no small thing. 197. It had fallen, of course, yesterday, but we were hoping for a little rally this morning. But again, there just isn't going to be a lot of great news in the markets for a while if we continue to push the production numbers globally and nationwide that we see. The way forward that we've talked about, and I'm going to break here for just a moment. We'll bring in a word from dairy pricing, and then we'll come back. Listen up to this ad, guys, and pay attention to what is said here, and then we'll talk about the agenda forward and the proposals that are being made by dairy producers and supported by dairy producers all over the country. So we'll run this one up the flagpole and be back in a moment.
As dairy farmers watch profits slip away and a wonderful way of life painfully comes to an end for future generations, Dairy Pricing Association sees a brighter future simply by having a solution. These dairy pricing farmer members in 10 states and growing have figured out a way. Government handouts are not the answer. It's time for farmers to take matters in their own hands. Dairy Pricing Association is asking for farmers to contribute 10 cents per hundredweight to buy surplus dairy products to create a floor price, as well as helping relieve hunger in America. This is a win-win. As dairy farmers, we watch markets fluctuate as much as $4 per hundredweight in 1 month's time. 10 cents is nothing. Imagine being able to curb another 2009 scenario simply by controlling the floor price that you need as a dairy farmer to stay in business. With the dairy products that you as a dairy pricing member purchase, thousands of people are fed. No government assistance is needed. Rather, simply you as a dairy farmer are helping yourself by helping others. For more information, visit online dairypricing.org.
The time for picnics and backyard barbecues is here. Schedule as many as you can because, well, the cold weather months, they just last too long. Make your cookouts and picnics extra special by including lots of delicious dairy products. Cheese for those hamburgers, cheese cubes to snack on, Frosties and ice cream to top off your cookout or picnic. Not only are these dairy products fun foods, they're downright delicious and nutritious. Presented by the Allied Milk Producers.
Okay, now we get to turn to the positive side of things, and we do focus on that a great deal because there, as you heard in the spot by Dairy Pricing, there are dairy producers who, like you, have pondered and pondered, what do you do? How do you go forward when the highs are short and the lows are long? What can dairy producers do about it? And for the most part, unfortunately, across the board for the last 10 or 12 years, dairy producers have not been market responsive with their milk production on the farm. They have not positioned themselves in where they could be asking for a price. Dairy Pricing Association provides an opportunity for dairy producers to collaborate together. You have the right to do that granted to you under the Capper-Volstead Act of 1922, an opportunity to sit in the room together and determine what will be the base price of milk paid to a dairy producer. And that opportunity exists as long as you're willing to be market responsive with milk production. You don't need quotas. You don't need the government's permission. You don't even need to ask permission from anyone or try and convince anybody but yourselves that working together, collaborating with each other on the amount of milk that's in the market at any given time would have a dramatic impact on the pay price. One of the things we like to tell you and remind you about is that no one died in 2014 when approximately $14 billion additional revenue was placed in the hands of dairy producers nationwide. That's domestic U.S. dairy producers received approximately $14 billion more dollars during the 2014 milk season than they did in 2015. And as a direct result of the fact that a perfect storm was created, demand had gone 4 years in a row. It took 4 years for demand to come back, by the way. Double-digit growth for 4 years, 2010, 11, 12, and 13. And while dairy producers were not market responsive with milk production during that time, they were always chasing price with production. And so we saw milk increases, production increases during that whole time that we saw a double-digit growth in global demand. And that was great because it ate up our excess. That double-digit growth in global demand took away the single-digit growth, about 4%, more milk every year than the year before during 10, 11, 12, 13. So the problem we have now is that double-digit growth didn't continue, and in fact, in the end of 14 and all through 15, it went crashing down. And it fell now more than 50%, about 50% or more. Let's just stay right there. 50% or more of that demand that we had achieved at the peak in 2014 is now gone. So you don't have double-digit growth. You actually have a 50% drop. Problem, dairy producers continue to chase price regardless of the price with more production. And we saw the largest increase in a long time in 2015, increase in milk production, domestic. And of course, that accelerated the rate of fall of the price being paid to dairy producers. And as the inventories, because somebody's got to do something with that milk, it comes through the processing system, it's turned into butter, powder, cheese, and stored. Because it's got to go somewhere. They're not dumping it. They shouldn't. Milk and milk products should not be dumped. That's a waste of a tremendous valuable resource. And there are things that can be done. And dairy pricing and dairy producers organizing a way forward have devised a way where, and it's not anything we haven't all learned before. What are we commanded to do with our excess? If you if you understand what that means, then even an extra coat in the closet, we are commanded to give to the needy. And so dairy producers say, hey, we've got an excess. What do we have an excess of? We have an excess of milk and milk products. They're in inventory. They're hurting our pay price. Let's give those excesses. Let's buy them up out of the market collectively as dairy producers, and let's then donate them to the Feeding America and other food for needy organizations, churches, and food pantries, etc., that dot this country. And the cool part about working with them is they've got the mechanism in place. They're wonderful people. You can't believe, and I met a lot of them last time I was in Pennsylvania. I went to the organization who is receiving help from dairy pricing, and dairy pricing is receiving support from dairy producers. They're setting aside 10 cents, as we heard in the commercial. Dairy pricing is asking dairy producers, hey, set aside 10 cents so that when you need to come into the markets, when milk production cannot be cut back as rapidly as possible, and the flow of milk is still coming through and converted to products which end up getting stored, then take that set aside, those 10 cents, and you come into the market and you buy up that at a price which is profitable, that maintains pricing so that it doesn't decrease pricing, but you eat up those inventories because you've purchased them, and now you donate them to these organizations that have the ability to get that milk and milk product to people who need it. Now, how big a deal is that? It represents 49 million to 65 million people, 15 to 25% of the U.S. population that do not, let's just call them dairy deficient. Some of them have no dairy in their diets at all, and have had that condition has existed for many years, literally decades, because the system they rely on for food in their world doesn't have it built into the system. There's just not enough dairy, or there's plenty of dairy, but there isn't dairy in their diets because they don't get them, because their money, they don't have enough bucks to go buy dairy. They get a lot of donations of carbohydrates, not a lot of protein, definitely never any dairy protein. So milk, butter, powdered cheese, ice cream, cottage cheese, sour cream, unfortunately does not exist in Feeding America's economy on a regular basis. Now, they may get some donated stuff that's dated, that's time dated. Oh, yeah, well, let's get this to somebody before it times out and isn't safe to provide to consumers. But they never have an ongoing fresh source of those types of products that we have now so much of. So dairy pricing has that way forward. Now, the cool part about that is that population, and this is where we can really make a difference on demand, because we've been chasing global now for the better part of 8 to 10 years. And unfortunately, we've gotten our domestic price of milk has been tied to global. And as the global price, the markets crash, then domestic crashes. Domestic price to dairy producers crash. Nobody else gets impacted by that. In fact, everybody in the United States loves it when that happens because their number one price of what they do, milk, is half of what it was in 14. So if you could buy your number one commodity, your number one cost of production is milk, and you could get it for half price, it'd be like a dairy producer getting his feed and his cows at half price. That'd be a home run. How do you like it right now when gas is half price? We can all understand that, can't we, as consumers? $1.85 a gallon in California yesterday for fuel. Man, I'm looking for a 1,000-gallon tank because now they're talking about it, and eventually it's going to go back up. But what happened? And then there's a great example where supply dramatically changed what? Price. Demand hasn't changed, although I think demand is up. It seems to me there's more cars going more places on the road today than I've ever seen in a long time. We're on the road every day almost, and boy, the traffic is significantly up, in my opinion. And the reason why is because people can afford that. When it only takes $30 to fill the tank, wow. I've been at Costco, and in California, we buy gas at Costco, and, it's dang affordable. But, to fill the Tundra was $100 one day. And it stayed that way for a long time, $100. And so the other day, we're talking about 20, the van took 28 gallons, something like that. But, that was still under, 28, it was just barely under $50. It might have been just a little over at $1.85. I'd have to do the math. I can't remember the exact number. But, wow, that's huge. Instead of, that would have been 100 at $4, that would have been, a whole lot more. So we can all relate to where the processors love to get your milk at half price. And that's what they've got right now. And so if you look at Dannon and you look at Dean's and you look at, I'm sure, Land O'Lakes and others who are processing your milk, their profit levels for last year, 2015, significantly higher. Why? Because the cost of inputs were low. And luckily for dairy producers, this fuel thing is a blessing to you, us, but of course, look what happened to cattle. There's another example where increase in inventories, more cows available, because the national herd's recovering. Okay? There are more beef cows available to the beef market than there have been in the last 5 years. And so, as supply is increased, price paid to the producer falls. So the beef guys, including you guys, when you cull your cows, you're seeing a dramatic change in the price the market's willing to pay you for your beef animals as you cull them. So there's plenty of examples for us to learn from and to understand that price is going to be determined by supply versus demand. And unfortunately, we're going to influence. I was going to tell you the most positive part about getting this food, this dairy products to Feeding America, is you're introducing a high quality, high protein, high nutrition product to a segment of the population that is totally underserved today. That population is 15 to 25%. What if we could increase the demand nationally, all domestic, of milk products and milk consumption by 15 to 25%? To us, we look at that and we say, that's a good place to go see if we can have an impact, because that's a domestic increase in consumption and demand. Now, the other thing that we're going to really push hard is the fortification of all milk in America to California standards. Why? Because it provides to our consumers a better tasting, more nutritious product. Now, this is the demand side of things, guys. We can be working together to impact demand. More nutritious, better tasting. Hopefully they'll consume more. But it also increases utilizations of milk solids. California is full of milk solids today. We make more powder than anybody in the country, maybe in the world. I don't know what Fonterra does with all that New Zealand and Australia milk. Because remember, that's the problem with New Zealand and Australia, is that 97% of all the milk they make, and they're your number 2, number 3 competitors, 97% of all the milk they make goes global. In America, only 8 to 16% of all milk goes global. The other 86 to 92% of all the production in the United States is consumed by American consumers, the people living here in this country, visiting or otherwise. And so, big difference. They've got a lot of milk that they want to go global, and you're competing out there. And that's okay. Sometimes, like in 14, it was a good deal. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We didn't get price benefit to the producer until 14. It took us 4 years or more to get supply more aligned with demand before you guys got price. So the goal we have is $22 for 36 months. How do you do it? Well, you do it in a multitude of different ways, but it starts with being market responsive. It starts with dairy producers being online and in tune to the fact that right now, the 4 to 8% too much milk that you're producing is decreasing the value of all milk in America by 50%. Your milk would be worth twice as much to the market as it is today if you could get the 4 to 8% production to disappear. Don't make it. Just don't make it. It's too expensive. Half price for an extra 4%. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, Colorado, and even in California in 15, you guys were up 4% almost every month. Down now, and grateful we are that it's down now. But it needs to be nationwide. You've got to do it in concert. You've got to be market responsive. You've got to do everything you can to increase demand. If there's places we can sell cheese and butter, we need to sell cheese and butter. We need to sell milk. We need to get more milk. But we also need to utilize our solids by fortifying that milk nationwide. 49 states in America do not fortify milk. You are providing to your consumers, in our opinion, and I've drank that milk, a product that is not in keeping with how really great your milk and milk products are. Why? Because you're taking the good stuff out of it and giving a less than desirable product to the consumer. And the consumers, I think they can tell. But what if we could have the best product available and we could promote more nutrition? We could promote better taste. And then market the heck out of that. That's why the Allied Milk Producers ad is there, for you to hear what a dairy organization, a marketing organization in the East, paid for by dairy producers, is doing to promote the increased consumption and the better utilization of milk and milk products in the diets and nutritional benefits that come from that to all Americans, from our youngest to our most senior citizens. So the way forward is available. Dairy producers, this is something we advocate simply because it makes total sense. It's very commonsensical, if that's such a word, but it's just good common sense to do everything you can as a dairy producer. If there are tools available, and you don't always use a hammer and a crescent wrench for every job, there are other tools in the bag. And we recommend your adoption of those tools and the utilization of those tools as a way forward to reach the goal of $22 for 36 months, to prove to yourselves and to the whole industry that unification of dairy producers is alive and well. We are going to be market responsive. We are going to take matters into our own hands. You are going to name your price, because Capper-Volstead Act of 1922 affords you that opportunity. It is a tool that you can use. It is legal and binding, and you get to use it because of who you are, what you do. The law made that provision in your behalf. And so if you look at our publication, the December 2015, the February 2016, you're going to see a very strong representation of that plan. And the law and the work that's been done by dairy pricing to outline their agenda, very strong. Read the contract with producers brought forward by the National Dairy Producers Organization. Again, I will say over and over, some of the best dairy recommendations, dairy policy paper, a way forward ever written. And dairy pricing was in there from the very beginning, back a long time ago. And the reason why, because it's the best tool available to provide for you an impact on pay price of milk for dairy producers, but also as a means of cleaning up the market and getting your excess to people who need it, which would have, there's blessings to that. I believe in that. I've been trained to know that's the truth. There are blessings that can be provided to all of us because of our concern and diligent efforts in behalf of the poor and needy. We don't need hunger in America. There shouldn't be. There's no reason. We have plenty. We simply need to do a better job of utilizing our resources at the right place, right time. And there are people in place that can help us make that happen. They'll even come and pick it up. You don't even have to pay to deliver it. That's a better deal than you get from your co-ops. Because guess what? Guess who pays to deliver that? You guys. And so they won't charge you to come and get it. You tell them where it's at, they'll come and get it in 3 days. Disappearance, boom. And it's getting that product to people who need it the most, that can derive the most benefit from it. And, of course, the blessings come to us in the dairy industry, the production industry as well. So, well, we've pretty much used up our time and gone over just a touch. Thank you for joining us. This has been the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine. In the days and weeks ahead, this will be a much different format. We're doing a lot of dialogue right now as we learn our craft on what to do and how to do things physically and recording and sharing this information. You can find these daily broadcasts on our website at my-dairyman.com. They are on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and we're learning this craft as we go along, and we're grateful to those who help us and teach us what we need to know to do more than just print a magazine. While we love print and it is a very effective medium, we have to do more than that, and we hope you'll bear with us as we learn what to do and how to do it better, communicating with dairy producers. We have more ideas to help in that area, and please stay tuned so that you can be part of that as we move this effort along. Again, we express our appreciation for the opportunity we have to be of some support and help to dairy producers. Spread the word. Join us again on Monday morning. It'll be the 29th of February. This is leap year, Election year, leap year. You can always remember that. But the 29th will be an added day, so that's a blessing to us. We get an extra day this month, this year. But at 8:30 a.m. in the Pacific time zone, 11:30 in the East, we'll join again on the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. Everyone have a great day. Be safe, and we'll see you again on this call Monday morning. Bye-bye.
To learn or hear more, please join us for our daily News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all dairy connection. It is broadcast live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can join the broadcast by calling 712-432-0900. Your conference PIN number is 666632#, or you can listen to the recorded call by dialing 712-432-0990, using your same PIN number for personal access. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We truly believe you need to and can know more. Our job is to deliver more knowledge to dairy producers, believing that if knowledge is power, then applied knowledge is nuclear power. We'll see you on the call.